Hello, welcome to Wellner Anderson. Today we're going to be talking about the student loan situation, but it's important to know how we got in this mess, and we need to understand the history of the student loan program. And that's really what this is about. It's the history of the student loan program. And you got to understand, early in American history, student loans were not available to the public. It was private loans, and people typically paid their way through college. And the wealthy really had access to college, and loans required collateral when they first came out, which obviously doesn't exist today, because a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid could sign for a $10,000 loan. Well, in any case, let's get into the history for a moment. In 1840, the first student loan was issued by Harvard University. And in 1862, the Morrill Act came out, which was a program which the federal government gave money to universities to build universities going out west with Manifest Destiny. If you don't know what Manifest Destiny is, that was the American movement to capture the rest of the nation. So in 1867, the Department of Education was sort of formed, and I'm going to jump ahead to the Montgomery GI Bill in 1944, where the GI Bill came out, which gave a stipend and paid for most of the university's cost. Now, the father, in my mind, of student loans, where this all leads to is in the 1960s, with Lyndon Baines Johnson, the 36th president of the United States. But before I get to him, there was one other element that occurred in around the 1950s when the Russians launched Sputnik. When that happened in, I believe, 1957, the National Defense and Highway Act came out, and that gave a lot of money for education for what we called STEM. But let's get back to Lyndon Baines Johnson, 36th President of the United States. He is, without any question, the genesis of the American Student Loan Program. Lyndon Baines Johnson, or LBJ, was poor. He did not have a lot of money. He was a teacher, and he taught Mexican students. And he did not go to a big school. He went to, I believe, Texas State University. And Lyndon Baines Johnson was always felt that education was critical in this great society to bring things together. And in 1965, he created the Higher Education Act. And that was the Federal Family Education Loan Program. Lyndon Baines Johnson wanted to solve inequality. He really felt that he can do it through education, and he had established the National Association of Financial Aid Administration. Jumping ahead to 1972 is when the Pell Grants came out, and they were income-based, and the government got more involved. Then we get to Sallie Mae. I'm going to do a whole video on Sallie Mae. I mean, it's a fascinating company, the way Sallie Mae worked. But for those who are not familiar with it, it started out as a federal program to get money to act as collateral for people getting money for the first time loans. In 1993, there was a student loan reform. Private loans came along in 2005, and along with the Higher Education Conciliation Act. And that modified debt requirements. Jumping ahead, after 2000, after the 9/11 event, there was a program that came forth called the Post 9/11 GI Bill, which was interesting because this bill offered ways that one can transfer the money to a family member. Along comes the recession of 2008, less money, and 2010, the elimination of the Federal Family Education Loan Program. Now we get the student loan forgiveness, along with COVID, and right now, you're talking about a student loan program announced by President Biden that, in my mind, doesn't even solve the symptoms of the student loan problem. The student loan problem, in my mind, is a symptom. The problem to me is secondary education, but I don't want to go in that rat hole. Let me give you this. There's roughly 4.3 million loans, $1.7 trillion is the amount. I see 1.9 trillion actually is the amount of debt that is larger than the gross domestic product of Canada. It's a huge lot of money. To give you some flavor, inflation in college has gone up five times since 1980. So this should help you, give you some idea on how we got in this situation. We're going to be doing subsequent videos each month on the student loan issue. One thing that's coming down the line is even the question of the forbearance of student loans can be an issue that is may wind up in the Supreme Court, and that might be tossed out when I did mention the forbearance. I did mention the forbearance program by President Biden. I'd like to thank you. Subscribe, give me a like. We're going to be doing this once a month, and you need to stay informed. Have a great day.